All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. People will be kind of filtering in and joining us as we go. So let's go ahead and do this. Cool. So my name is Eric Zeigel. Ian Highfield is here in the background. I don't know if you guys can see him or not. You might be able to see his head there. We are part of a company called Game Like Training GLT Golf, and we are the USA distributor for Capto putting. We do not work for Capto. I am not a salesman by any means. I'm actually a golf coach. So I've been using Capto for about 8 months now, and Capto asked us to be doing some of their education in the US. So we've been putting out a lot of video tutorials, how-tos, hacks, that kind of thing. And we'll be continuing to do education on how to use Capto, whether you're a coach, a player, a club fitter. So we'll be doing a lot of education here to come. These webinars are going to be done monthly, so make sure you stay tuned for that. So this is ultimately going to be an introduction to Capto. I don't know how many people who have signed up for this either have a Capto or have even seen Capto. So this is going to be just an introduction to Capto. What is Capto, and how you can utilize it, and why we've chosen to partner with Capto for our putting needs. So like I said, my name is Eric Zeigel. I'm a PGA professional. I'm the director of instruction at the AJ Golf Academy in Ackworth, Georgia. I'm originally from Colorado. We've been at this now for 2 years this June. I don't know if you've heard of our company, Game Like Training Golf, but I'm also a managing partner of GLT Golf LLC. And we focus on the sciences behind expert performance. So we can dive into that a little bit later. But I'm also a Capto expert coach. I put my email there and my phone number. If anybody has any questions or specific to Capto, if you're needing troubleshooting or anything like that, feel free to email me, call me. My cell phone number is there as well. Check out our social media. Instagram, we have @CaptoGolfUSA. Game Like Training, we also have a lot of stuff on there. YouTube, we have a whole playlist on Capto hacks on YouTube. So make sure you go to Game Like Training, subscribe to that. If you go under playlists, you'll see one specific to Capto. And then website, GLT Golf, and we also have gltgolfstore.com, which is where you can purchase anything you need for Capto, such as the Capto calibration bar. If you need one of those, we have those on the website. If you need to purchase a Capto itself, we have the Capto product on the website. And then we also have Luca's new book. So Luca is the one who developed the product. So Zero in Putting is his book based on his research done behind putting. So today's topic is going to be introduction to Capto. So what is Capto? We'll cover some of the specs and the basic details. We'll go into what does Capto measure. We'll look at the actual software and the data, as well as the different modes that you can capture within. And then we'll talk a little bit about how Capto can help you teach or fit your players. So first, what attracted me to Capto, and this kind of goes into our philosophy as a company at Game Like Training, I am very big into capturing data in context. I want to see what a player is doing in the true performance environment. I want to know what their putting stroke tendencies are on a right to left putt for birdie versus a right to left putt for bogey kind of thing. I want to know when they are under the gun, what their tendencies tend to become. So when I saw Capto at the PGA show, I think that was 2 years ago, I was very excited about the fact that you could take this, it's portable, and you could capture data in context. It's not something that you're not restricted to only being indoors, and it's not a hassle to use outdoors either. So that was the main thing that attracted me to it, and it's also extremely accurate. So what is Capto? Well, Capto is ultimately a putting analysis software that was developed by Luca Mensi. So they are a company based out of Italy. So that's why we're kind of stepping in to help with the translation of a few things. So it can be used to assess players. It can be used to validate or verify what you're doing with a player. If you're making a change to their putting stroke, Capto is a great way to not only get insight into what they're currently doing within their stroke, but it can also help you validate what you're doing with that player. And there are also some cool features within it that can help the player improve if you're not around necessarily as well. And it can be used for club fitting as well. We'll get into that a little bit later. So these are some of the specs and details that I kind of get asked these questions a lot. It only weighs 47 grams, so it's a really nice small device. There we go. So here I have it on my putter. Really small device that goes on the back of the grip, so it doesn't impact your sight line or anything like that. It actually has 14 sensors inside of the product itself, 9 measurement sensors, 5 calibration sensors. I'm not going to go into the details as far as what those sensors are. You can read them on the screen if you're really interested. It can be used indoors and outdoors. Nice thing about it, I don't know if anybody here uses Sam Putt Lab. I used to be a Sam Putt Lab guy prior to using Capto. So Capto actually puts out its own Wi-Fi signal, which is really nice because you get no interference of any kind. I had some issues at some point, not to knock on Sam. I love Sam Putt Lab. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use it, but when I was using Sam Putt Lab outdoors, you know, A, it took me a little while to set it up, but B, if it was windy, all of a sudden my graphs kind of got thrown off that electromagnetic field, started to have some interference from the wind, and then usually my acceleration graphs kind of got all over the place. So because it's putting out its own Wi-Fi signal, you never have any issues with connection, and it's a very stable connection, so you always get reliable data. It can also capture up to 400 frames per second. When you first download the software, it's going to set itself to 300 frames per second. You can change that anywhere from 100 up to the 400 frames. If you go to 400 frames, just be careful. If your computer cannot handle that fast of a capture rate, the battery might be dying pretty quick. So it's usually kind of stock or standard set to 300 frames per second. But the nice thing about that is you're not missing any second of any putt. It is capturing so much data during a stroke that you are getting the most accurate information as far as what the putter is doing at any given moment throughout that stroke. Another nice thing, it is compatible with Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android devices. So I actually have it set up on my MacBook, which is what we're going to be doing the display on today. And I also have it on a Windows tablet. And I've also, both of those died on me one day. I think I forgot to charge them. So I downloaded the app onto my iPhone, and I was still able to capture putts on that. So it's really nice, easy to use across multiple platforms, and you can share data throughout all those platforms, so you never run into any issues of not having the player's data, depending on what device you're using. So let's go ahead and look at the actual Capto platform here. Did that switch over in?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let's go to the home page first. So this is the Capto home page. Like I said, I don't know how many people on this have used Capto or how many people are familiar with Capto. But when you open up the software, this is the screen that it'll take you to. And so really simply, you connect to the Wi-Fi. I don't have mine connected because I don't want to disconnect from the Wi-Fi and lose all of you guys. But so you would connect to the Wi-Fi, and then you click on this connection, and you'd actually just hit connect. It'll connect to the sensor. And then when you go into profile, this is where you can set up your player data. So I have a handful of players on this device. It's really easy if you want to add a new player. I just click new player, put in their first name, their last name, and any other information that I want to do, as well as kind of the teacher that's going to be using it. So if you're at a golf club and you have a couple teachers, you can get one device and you can kind of share it amongst the crew. So I would put myself as the teacher, and then you would go into putter data. So go back to this profile, putter data, and this is where you have to insert some data. It seems a little tedious at first, but it really doesn't take that long once you get comfortable with it. And Capto has done a great job of coming out with a couple devices to help you or help expedite this process to save you some time. But the data, realize the data coming out is only as good as the data that's put in. So you would put in the data, you can title it. So that first yellow box here, that's where you can title it whatever you want. And then you put in the brand as well as the model of the putter. And then you need to know the length of the putter, the loft. Capto actually has come out with this cool little ninja star looking thing. This is a really easy way to check the loft of the putter. If you're using Capto indoors and you have a lie and loft machine, obviously that's a great way to do it. If you're using it outdoors, then you can use the loft meter that Capto's come out with. So you need to know the length of the putter, the loft of the putter, the lie, how much offset there is, as well as the sensor distance. And this is a common question I get: how far does this sensor need to be from the bottom of the putter? Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. You just want to be careful if somebody is really doesn't want the swing weight of the putter to change, then you got to make sure that you put this in the correct place so the swing weight doesn't change at all. But the nice thing about it is you can put it anywhere along the shaft, so you can start to see the closer you put it to the face, the more accurate data you're going to get of the club head. The further you put it up the handle here, the less weight it's going to have effectively, because you're putting it closer to that center of rotation. So you can move this anywhere along the shaft. There is no, it has to be in this position. So that's something nice as well. You're going to select the MOI, the moment of inertia of the putter. And so you can choose whether it's a blade or a mallet. And it's going to give you kind of the average moment of inertia of the putter. And it's not necessarily saying this is the accurate moment of inertia for this putter. It's just saying this is the average for a blade, or this is the average for a mallet. And that's going to be important when we get into some of the data. You can also put in the total weight in grams as well. And then the calibration process is a really simple process as well. We're going to have a video coming out on YouTube explaining the calibration process, but it's a two-step process. Capto has come out with this calibration tool. So you would lay this flat, and it's kind of got this ridge on the side here, so you can make sure the face is square to the center. So you calibrate it flat like this, and then the second part of the calibration is you do a plumb, hold it by the grip, and you let the putter hang. So the first one is going to be when it's lying flat, it's calibrating for the face, and then when you're doing the plumb, it's going to be calibrating for the shaft, so it gets a true up, and then based on the lie that you put in there, it knows what the, where the putter is in time and space. So let's go ahead and look at the data here. So it gives you a lot of data, very similar to the stuff, if you're familiar with Sam Putt Lab, it's giving you a lot of the same data that Sam Putt Lab is. So it's giving you face, shaft, lie. So this would be face rotation, changes in shaft would be basically changes in loft. Lie would be exactly what it sounds like, changes in the lie angle. And it's important to note that right now we are in the lab mode, and lab mode is not referencing a target. It is not using a target line. It is taking the last known position of the putter at address, and then as soon as that putter starts to move, it actually, the software works back a couple frames and it says, okay, this is where the putter started, and this is where the putter finished at impact. So in this instance, the player was 0.9 degrees open relative to where they started the putter at address. And the same thing applies with shaft and lie angle. So in the lab mode, I'll give you an example. The lie angle, let's say somebody starts with the putter 4 degrees toe down. If they return it to 4 degrees toe down, that number is going to show 0. It's going to show a change of 0 degrees. But if they start at 4 degrees toe down and then they return it to what would actually be considered neutral lie angle, it might say they've gone from 4 degrees to 0, so it would be a difference of 4 degrees. So the lab mode is again referencing where that putter was last at address to where it is at impact. So when we look at face, like I said, because it's capturing at 400 frames per second, you are able to get all the data throughout the entire stroke. Really easy to scroll through all the data and see any given second. At the bottom of the screen, that's where we get our current. So that's what the putter is currently doing relative to where you're scrolling. So you can see for this player, this is actually myself. You can see that I actually shut the face about 0.4 degrees in the early part of the takeaway. And then I start to open the putter quite rapidly. The yellow bar is going to represent what they call inversion. Inversion frame is just where the putter is now completed the backstroke and is on its way into the downstroke. And so then we can kind of continue in to impact, which is the orange frame. So we're going to get that on face, shaft, lie. We can scroll through these in real time and get the data at any point, which is a really nice feature. Angles is just another way of looking at those three, the face, shaft, and lie, to look at those just collectively. So track, we have a couple different options here. Let me get rid of one thing first. So we have path and we have track. So path is just the 3D projection of the travel of the putter. So if there was a shadow, if you had an overhead light coming straight down, it would be that 3D projection of the putter head itself. Whereas the track would be if you imagine a laser pointer is coming out of the shaft, pointing at the ground, that would be showing the track of the putter. These can oftentimes be different. The path can be working on an inward arc while the track can be straight back, straight through. Within this, there are a lot of different features. We saw that we already have the face track, so I can see what the face is relative to the path. I can scroll and change how frequently I want to see that data, and we can make it really colorful if we want to. So that's a nice one. Another cool feature that they added, this was a couple months ago, is you can actually create a putt template. So if I go ahead and create this and we open it, you can see very similar to the Visio putting template. You can print this out, tape it together, give it to your student, and they can have their own personal putting template to work with when they aren't with you. The arc is just showing rise angle. Again, you can see we can show the lofts of the face relative to that track or to that path. And then the purple line here, that represents the low point. Also gives you the face to path, the shaft to arc, gives you those numbers, gives you the launch. So the launch is going to give you the predicted launch estimated based on one of the calculations of where the faces and the track are. So you can see where that ball is launching in a height perspective, as well as in a directional perspective. So this putt started 0.5 degrees to the right of the target. Energy loss, this is where the moment of inertia piece comes in. This is a cool feature that they have that I know isn't on any other software that I've ever seen, but it actually measures or can calculate what the potential energy loss would have been for a given putt. So the shaft to arc roll is going to tell you if you're producing any sort of kind of top spin, forward spin, or a neutral spin. And then we have the face to path spin. So if that face to path gets really off, the ball, it launches in the air initially. And if it's going to be kind of having any side spin or cut spin, and then torque, any mishits on the putter, it's going to tell you what that potential torque is. So for this player, loss of 8.6%, meaning this putt could have gone 8% further than it did. Anything under 10% is pretty good. Rotations, this is just showing you the degrees per second. Any rotations, face, shaft, lie, you can scroll through that. That's a nice, nice feature as well. Rotations, we got the impact sweet spot. So this is just another way of looking at that torque. And this is good because what Capto doesn't do, it doesn't tell you how far, how many millimeters the ball was hit out of the middle of the face necessarily, but it does tell you how much torque is being applied to the putter face. So for this player, it was hit out of the toe. So the putter face, if we go to the orange frame here, this is impact, and we can see that next frame right after impact, the face actually twisted. It was opening 46.4 degrees per second opening. So we know that there was some torque being applied to the toe of the putter. And so the nice thing about that, whether you're teaching or you're doing a club fitting, is you can help players find the true sweet spot of the putter. It's often never where that sight line is. So you can help the player actually understand where the true sweet spot is of the putter, given using this information to know where they're hitting it relative on the face. So you put a little face spray or some face tape on there, and you can know exactly where they're hitting. You can know exactly how much torque is being applied, and you can adjust as needed. Actually, let me go back to that one real quick for you. Anything under 5% is going to fall inside this yellow circle. So this one was 5.2%, so we can see it was just outside of the circle. So anything under 5% is good. It also gives us the 3D motion. This is a really nice feature that Capto gives. There's a lot of different things that we can see with the 3D motion. So we can look at, let's get rid of some of these to start. So you can first start by just looking at the player, and they also now have the top of the shaft path. So you can zoom in, you can manipulate this however you want, and you can actually see what's happening throughout the putting stroke. And you can see, so that nice, you can see kind of what the shaft is doing, what the handle of the putter is doing. Let's recenter that. And you can kind of get an overall view as well. Sweet spot plane, this is a new thing that they added. We'll be doing a video on this because that's a whole conversation in its own. And so we do have the sweet spot plane. We have what they call the putt plane, and then we also have the shaft plane. We'll dive deeper into all of that a little bit later. Not today. That's, like I said, another conversation. And so it's a really nice kind of added benefit, whether you're using this as a coach to analyze what a player is doing, or if you're actually using this to help a player conceptualize what you're trying to explain to them, there's a lot of nice features that you can use within this 3D motion function within the Capto software. And in the bottom left-hand corner here, it does give us the face, shaft, lie in real time as we move throughout the stroke. So the other modes that it gives us, again, we were looking at it in lab mode. If we go into custom mode, this is the one that's probably the most used with students. You can select what tiles you want the student to actually see. So right now, face, track, we'll go shaft and arc. So now the player can only get access to the data that I want them to see, so you avoid them getting overly cognate or thinking too much about what they're trying to do within their stroke. Sometimes as a coach, you don't want them to have access to all this data. So the nice thing about the custom mode is, let's say I just want the player to focus on face. Excuse me. I can just select face, and that'll be the only data that they receive information on. Green mode, this gives you real-time feedback as to what the putter is actually doing. So I've used this with players when, let's say, they have an interesting setup and the putter is not resting correctly, it's not at its correct lie angle. They can use this information. It'll, in real time, the numbers will be changing until they kind of hit the lie angle that you want them to, or if they have too much forward press or whatever the case might be, you can use that information as well. It does have a target mode. So like I said, lab mode is taking that last reference frame from impact and comparing, or from address and comparing it to impact, whereas target mode, you can actually calibrate a target line, and you can use that target line to get all your data. So it would take wherever that intended target is relative to where the putter face is at impact. You can get all that information as well. So we'll be doing a video and putting that on YouTube as well, explaining that process. And that's a really nice thing to use, especially when you're doing putter fittings, so you can actually help a player understand where they're aiming. Because if you're doing a fitting, you want to know how the different hosels or the different sight lines, different head designs, how all those things are influencing a player's ability to aim. So the target mode is a really nice thing when you're doing fittings. I've used it for coaching as well, but it's something I've definitely used for fittings. Practice mode, this is something that honestly I haven't gotten too much into, but basically when a player hits a putt, you're going to be able to tell the software where the ball finished. And it's kind of a nice way you can get kind of capture a dispersion, if you will, of where the balls are finishing relative to the hole. So that's a nice tool to use. Like I said, I haven't used that a ton. The main one that I've been excited about that they came out with recently is the protocol mode. And so the protocol mode is really nice. If there's a test that you want to put a player through, if there's something specific that you tend to do when you get a new student, or if you're doing a fitting, anything like that, you can actually create this protocol and have the player go through this setting. Ian, how are we on time?
I think we're good.
Okay.
11:25 now. So we started about 30 minutes. Okay. So a couple more minutes.
Perfect. All right. So the protocol mode is nice because you can choose the distance of the putt. Let's say the first putt is going to be from 9 feet. Let's say it's a flat putt. It's going to generate that one. I'm going to add a second putt. Let's say this one's from 12 feet. And I'm going to say this one is downhill at 2%. I can actually create however many putts I want, 9-hole putting course, whatever the case might be. And I can choose how many putts they're going to hit from each location. And they can go through this test. And I can create a collective data. So again, going back to the reasons why we like this product, you can actually capture data in context. So even if I'm on a practice green, I can make it more representative of what I would see on a golf course, where I can have them hit a shorter putt, then I can have them hit a longer putt. I can have them then go back to a putt that breaks from right to left, a putt that breaks left to right. And I can collect all this data and I can look at it and I can really get a better idea of what the player's tendencies are on a left to right, right to left, downhill, uphill, all that stuff. So the protocol mode's a really nice thing.
Hey, Eric, just so you know, I just got a notification from Zoom saying lifted the 40-minute limit. So you'd have to rush.
Beautiful. We thought we had a 40-minute time limit. It sounds like we have been blessed with the ability to go longer. Cool. So so that's a nice thing as well. Sorry, we were just looking at those. So it does give you tempo. A lot of people are interested in the tempo. So it gives you tempo of the player. So in the top corner here, we have player, or we go optimal. So the player, there's two different ones, address and takeaway. Address is ultimately measuring when the handle starts to move, so when the grip starts to move, whereas takeaway is measuring when the head of the club itself starts to move. So someone like Jordan Spieth, who kind of has this excessive forward shaft lean to start the stroke, that's where you would see those two numbers start to change from address to takeaway. Is somebody that has kind of a different tempo and what the handle's doing is compared to what the head's doing, or relative to what the head's doing. You can play auditory sounds so they can kind of hear what's going on there. I don't know if that's going to play because we have the speaker set to me being able to talk, but there is a way to have the sound playing. You can change kind of the way that you want that to be presented. When you want to look at all the data, click on the bottom right-hand corner. These are all the strokes that have been collected. So over time, there's a lot of data that you're obviously going to have. So it's really nice to use some of the features within Capto to organize that data. So if I go back to putt, and I can go stroke session, I can start a new session, title it whatever I want to. When I click on the tree in the top corner here, you're going to see all the different sessions that you started. So then I can only look at that data. So if you're working with a new student, you might start a session called assessment and then post-intervention, whatever the case might be. So then it's really easy to compare the data from lesson 1 to lesson 10 kind of thing. So you don't get too bogged down in trying to sort through all this data. Really easy too if you want to look at a group of strokes. So let's just look at these 6. I'm going to hit select all. I can actually average out all 6 of these strokes. I can look at the standard deviations of them as well, so I can see the consistency. So this is a great way to really get a full perspective as to what the player is doing throughout a group of putts. And again, same thing, you can scroll through this, but you'll notice this kind of little silver outline around the blue. That is showing that standard deviation, so the range that a player would fall within. So the further apart those get, the more variance there is within a player's stroke. So that is nice. You can create a report, export that, send it to the player, anything like that. And that's really simple as well. Settings, not a whole lot that we need to really cover in here other than knowing that the data manager, that is where you can import and export data between multiple devices. So if you want to export a certain player, let's say I want to export myself, click on myself, and then I would just go export player. I'd go onto whatever other device I'm using. Let's say I'm going onto my phone. I'd go into the same setting, and I would go import player. I'd go to the cloud, and then once I log in, I can then see all the players. So these are the players that are also on one of my other devices. I can click on that, and I can actually import all that data and get all their stroke information in here as well. It updates really frequently, which is nice. When you log into the home screen, you'll get a notification if there is an update. Capto is great about taking suggestions. If there's something that you want to see differently, whether it's a different data point or you want something, displayed differently, you can reach out to ourselves. We'll pass on the message to the development team at Capto in Italy, and they come up with updates pretty frequently. When you purchase a Capto, the first year, the subscription is included, which is nice. Ian will talk about that here in a second. He'll dive into kind of the sales information a little bit more on that. The orange book here, this is kind of the Capto, this is the Capto user manual. So this is where you can get some more information as to everything that we've kind of talked about in a little more depth. We're going to go into more detail on all these topics later on. So let me go back to my presentation here. Cool. So like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of these webinars. We're going to be doing them monthly. So if there are any topics or questions that you guys have specifically, please email me. Take down my email right now, Zeigel, Z-E-I-G-E-L, @gltgolf.com. We want to make sure that the webinars and the information that we're putting out there is relevant to the questions and issues, or whatever the case might be, but the questions that you guys have. So please be but feel free to contact myself and let us know what it is that you're interested in, and we'll definitely do our next webinar around some of those topics. And if you need immediate help, please contact myself to schedule a call. Again, my email is right there. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, switch it on.
Let me stop sharing.
Yeah, so firstly, thanks to Eric for putting that together. Eric's been a member of Game Like Training for a while now, well, as long as we've been doing this thing, 2 years, and he's really excelled when it comes to practical application of applying the technology into his teaching. So he's become a Capto expert coach, and he'll be conducting Capto certifications, level 1 and level 2. Is that right, Eric? In the future,
Level 1, yeah.
Level 1 initially, and level 2 in the future. So you're in good hands there. Where if you have any questions on the technical aspects of Capto, if you want any data looking at, any form of support, please reach out to Eric. And then from me, you know, Game Like Training is primarily a coach education company. That was our ultimate goal. We want to help golfers and golf coaches educate and inspire effective practice and effective thinking. So Eric is a vital part of the team when it comes to understanding the technology. And then my own expertise would be in the application of this technology into effective practice. So please reach out to me, ihighfield@gltgolf.com, if you have any questions on effective practice and you want to implement Capto into effective practice programs. Also, Eric is very effective at that as well. So Eric could potentially answer any questions on that. And then the third arm of Game Like Training is Matthew. Some good news, Matthew just had his first child, so he's not here right now. So I'm going to give you some information that normally Matthew would share with you. But like I've said, ultimately, Game Like Training is a coach education company. And our education has started to transcend just giving our certification and speaking at PGA events. It's formed into partnerships with companies like Capto. We also worked heavily with Gravity Fit, and we've got other companies such as Ping that we're consulting with and helping them improve certain practices that they have. So the whole point of me sharing that with you is if you decide to purchase a Capto, you're not purchasing it from us. It's coming from Italy, and it's not a transactional approach. Please understand that our passion is education. So if you purchase a Capto, it will be sent from Italy, and what will happen is you will get our services. You'll get Eric's services to help you understand and apply the technologies. You can have my services to help you build effective practices. And then what Matthew's put into place for people like yourselves who are very keen is not only discounts on the product. So after this webinar, if you go to gltgolfstore.com, that's gltgolfstore.com, you can potentially get a 10% discount off a Capto with code CaptoGolf. You just put CaptoGolf in at checkout. But it's not about the actual purchase. It's about this ongoing education. So we want to be here to communicate with you, to build relationships. And then also, if you have other desires and needs as a coach, if you want to become part of the Capto family, perhaps you know people who want to purchase and you want to become a reseller, then that's something we can look at. And there's different levels of that. There can be small commissions for recommendations, or there could be a situation where you would buy multiple units and you get a larger discount and you could sell them yourselves. Also, as we're passionate about the education side of things, we want people supporting our education. So if you're using Capto and you have some interesting results, or you have some super successes, or you find, like Eric has, some nice hacks and shortcuts that can really make the process of using Capto more efficient, why not share that with us? And we can potentially put it on our YouTube channel. And ultimately, we're going to need more people than just Eric running the certification. So again, Nick Duffy in Florida, Nick Starchuk in Canada. These are all guys that are part of this Capto team, this Capto movement that we're building as part of Game Like Training's passion for education and to help golfers and golf coaches use training tools effectively. So if you want to create content or even become part of the team that can look at delivering certifications, again, reach out to myself, reach out to Eric, ask us any questions. But one thing I can assure you is this is not a transactional approach. Yes, we want to help you get the unit in your hand, but then the ongoing education is really what we're passionate about at Game Like Training. And that's the reason I think that Capto, as well as the language barrier, have decided to allow us to be their US distributor. So if anyone has any questions, fire away. In the next couple of hours, you'll be sent another email that has the recorded footage of this webinar, so you can go through it. And then in the next couple of days, we'll email you more information about good Game Like Training and our partnership with Capto, and how you guys can benefit from it from not only discount standpoint, but from a relationship, education, and then maybe even as an ongoing educator or reseller of Capto. So I hope that's a nice way to close out this webinar. Thanks to everyone who took time out their day to join. I hope you found it valuable. Thanks to Eric. I know he worked very hard on this to put all this together. And like Eric said, it's the first of many. So if you have any specific topics, please reach out to us and let's all move the industry forward and help players get better together. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.